Hey everyone, this is Zevros with the Arcade Stick. If you're familiar with the Flatbox project, you know this is a GP2040 powered open source PCB that people can make their own little all button controllers out of. And they're really good, they're fun to play with. It's kind of the basis of, say, the SGF Bridget, which I reviewed some time ago. However, you know how I complained that it's not the most comfortable for lap play? Yeah, well, the folks at Neo Input took a look at that and said, you know what? We're really good with acrylic. I think we can solve this problem. So they sent over two things, actually. The first being the Neobox, which is an acrylic sandwich-based build using Flatbox, but wider. What would have thought, right? So I really like this little guy, even though it doesn't fit my favorite tablet sleeves. What do you do? But anyway, they have a number of different switch and cap color options, so that's excellent. And, it's just a solid little hitbox build. But that wasn't enough for them. And I said, there's two products, so let's get out the second one. And this is where they went a little crazy, because this is the Neo Input Core0. And if you guessed right, yeah, it looks more industrial. And, well, the reason is there's lighting. So, and there's also some other features we're going to get into here in a minute, but if you like LEDs, they advertise this as the hitbox you want to buy if you want LEDs, and yep, they're here in spades. Also GP2040 and some other exciting features I'm really hyped to tell you about. So, if you are looking for a wide format hitbox, and whether you want LEDs or you don't, stay tuned. I think Neo Input might have something for you. Let's do an overview of the Rev 4. Now, just to mention this up front, Neo Input has some newer models. There's a 6G AWD, there is the Brook version, and there's also a reversed hitbox layout. So if you like a southpaw, then they have that available. I'm not sure I could train my right hand in any appreciable length of time, so not for me, but maybe for you lefties out there, that is a good choice in a market that suspiciously does not have a lot of those options. Anyhow, let's take a look at this. I believe this is a Rev 4. You do have 6 option buttons, which is nice, and yes, this is the GP2040 based model. These are 3D printed keycaps, and I ordered a set of resin ones, so I'll show those off later. We're using Chalk V1 switches, so those have the little tabs. I'm kind of partial to the V2s myself, but I feel like 30 to 40% of the hitboxes out there like this are using the V1s, and a good 55% are using the V2s with, about 5% oddballs. So there's that. Anyway, these feel great. I went with clicky switches just to annoy everyone around me on this, because I do like having that positive response sometimes. So there's that. Anyway, up top we have a USB-C port, and yes, this is another acrylic sandwich design. Nothing really around the other sides, but on the back there is these nice pads that are installed. They actually are a bit thick. It's kind of hard to see here, but they do go above the screws, so you can push this along your desk and not have to worry about scratching it from the screws down there. Otherwise, I found this to be really comfortable to play in the lap, just because, of course, it is wide. That's sort of their gimmick, is that, hey, we're not just the reference Flatbox design, it's a little wider, so it's more comfortable to play in the lap. But how's that going to perform? We'll check that out. Let's get some dimensions on the Neobox. So across, we are looking at 12¼ inches, or about 310 and change millimeters. This way, we are looking at about, let's dial that back, 5½ inches, or about 140 millimeters. And if we check the width, it's very thin, as I pointed out before. Yeah, we're not even doing ½ an inch. I'd say we're at 15, or no, just short of 15 millimeters.
Let's get a quick weight on the Neobox. So as you can see, 1 pound, 11.7 ounces. So it's not super heavy, but I think it's just the right weight for something like this. You can definitely feel it if you're holding it like this or if you put it in your lap. So it's not ephemeral. Yeah, pretty good. It's kind of what I expect for something this size and of this construction. All right, I want to show you the internals of the Neobox, starting with the top here. So I've already applied out the keycap and switch. Usually what you want to do with that is just take a flathead precision screwdriver and kind of wedge it under the bottom and just ply up from there. And it may pull off the switch as well. That's fine. Just make sure before you reinsert any switch that these pins, these metal ones especially, are lined up. Otherwise they can bend and they won't go in the slots and you won't have a working button. Be very careful in plying these caps off because of these chalk V1s. They can be a little temperamental and snap a tab real easy. I actually did it with this one because I got a little overzealous. Anyhow, because it's using this chalk V1, this is the only kind of switch you can use, but thankfully there is a large variety of chalk V1s out there. So you can get linears, you can get clickies like these, you can get tactiles. However, I heard the tactiles aren't that great, so I just went for clicky to annoy everybody around me. And to replace that switch, you just take the new one and line up the correct way. Let me just make sure we're doing that. So the metal tab should face up top and align with these two holes here. And of course your plastic pins are going to align with left, center, and right. Just press straight down and you should be fine. What you want to do with the cap is just line up the little tabs and then snap those bad boys in and you're good to go. Let's show you how to get into your Neobox proper. So before you start, I recommend having something soft to put this on. I'm just laying it on a microfiber towel. That way you don't scratch up your front. And I would have some lens cleaner wipes, or better yet, lens cleaner spray and another towel. So that way you can clean up anything that's got in there. If you've got fingerprints on the inside or just dust has gotten in there, you can clean it out really easily. You'll also want I used a flathead. This works fine. Or you can use the Phillips PH1 on the screws that are included. And also, I always like having a little container for screws so they don't necessarily get lost. It's much easier just to have them all stacked in there and less chance of them getting knocked over, I guess, or just brushed aside. Anyhow, let's get started. Just going to show you, I have this last one here. Now, sometimes if you're spinning it on, if it's just spinning, then hold it from the other side. You should be golden. There we go. Easy peasy. You put that away, and then you may, if it's not coming out, you can just push down with the precision screwdriver there, and there we go. Now we're ready to disassemble this guy. So it is, again, another one of the acrylic sandwich boards. So our first layer has the rubber pads glued onto it. All good. Let's lay this aside. So our next layer actually, it's curiously, okay, yeah, it has cutouts for the switches, so if you need to push them out from behind, you can do that. And I do have a little dust there, so I think I'll clean that out. Next up, our PCB, and that's really what we're interested in, I think. So, as you can see, if you got yourself in trouble and you can't get to the reset by hitting start, you remap start and then start wasn't there anymore. Well, what you want to do is plug it in, hold this reset button. That'll pretty much nuke it. And if you need to, there's a boot button as well, so you can boot to the web config, which is handy. Otherwise, it's pretty much what we saw before. You have keycaps on top of the switches, and it's a pretty much reference Flatbox design, so it's cool. Anyway, and then the next layers, be very careful with these thin layers like this because they can snap at the weak places very easily. Worked with enough acrylic to know. Yep, there's another layer, and then our white layer. And so on this, we got a nice shiny layer there, and you can get this in different colors. Between this, the final layer, and this guy is where we want to insert artwork. So if you get that, you'll put it in there, make sure it's cut appropriately, and then you can reassemble. So just put this like this. Actually, I may need to, hopefully I'm doing this right. Oh, no, I flipped it. That's why we're not having a good time. Okay. And once you start getting a few layers, you may want to put in some pins just to kind of make sure they stay secure if it wants to cooperate today. Oh, there it goes. It's starting to. There. Okay. And then, now I would clean these layers before I do final assembly. So there's that. And then make sure our rubber is facing out. And there we go. From there, it's just place our screws back on, and we should be good. Now, once you reinsert all the pins from the underside, the flat ones, I would screw them, start up here, 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 and then you can kind of repeat the process for the center. And don't tighten them up all the way until you've got them all lined up, because you want a little bit of play to make sure you can get them all bolted back down, and you should be golden after that. But that's how to disassemble and reassemble your Neobox. Let's do some basic acceptance testing with the Neobox. So I've got it here, and I just want to do some pressure tests. It's very stable, very solid. Advantage of the acrylic sandwich method is just, yeah, you've got solid layers on solid layers, so there's no flexing whatsoever. If that's important to you, well, here you go. I just want to do some slide test. I don't expect it. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad on this foam mat, so let's test it on the bare desktop. I expect there's going to be an improvement. Yeah, definitely. So this amount of sliding is pretty acceptable. Obviously during gameplay, I'm not going to slide it like this, but if I try from the top, you can see it's not moving at all. I'm just getting a bunch of shake in my everything else here. So yeah, I feel like we're definitely passing the test here. All right, let's go ahead and test some directionals. Now these are, again, equipped with some clicky switches, so that's why you have noise. If you want quieter switches, there are linears available. There's a whole host available on the store page. Let's try some buttons. All right, let's do some chords. Now if I remember right, I said, yep, at least that. So I've got last one on because I am lazy, scrub material. And you can see that's working. So if I hit down, yep, so that's working fine. You can always change the SOCD mode either via shortcut or in the web interface. All right, let's make sure our options are working. Hopefully I don't call up Steam Big Picture. I expect one of these not to work. It will be, yeah, touchpad or something for PlayStation mode. So, all right, all buttons are working as expected. So let's move on. Let's do a little in-game footage just to show off the controller. Anyway, let's do some basic stuff. So there's that. All right, so movement's pretty good. And yeah, I've got the clicky switches in here, so it makes some noise. All right, and again, I like E Honda just because, well, he's fun and he has a lot of different moves here. Get some motions tried out like that. All right.
Yeah, quarter circle toward works, quarter circle away, half circle back, and all the charge moves. So we can just whip that out. Yep, okay. So yeah, again, my benchmark for in-game performance is usually, if the execution errors are on me, then I think the controller is probably pretty good. There's little or no sliding in-game, as you probably noticed. Keycaps on here feel pretty good. If you really hate that 3D printed feel, though, then I would say you can look into resin keycaps. I've got a set from Barnes Industries, but there are other sellers on Etsy as well. So one thing I like to do is to see on the web where you get information from. Is the manufacturer website good, etc. Now right now, if I go straight to neoinput.com, it's kind of a Shopify placeholder page, so nothing here yet. Hopefully in the near future that'll be rectified. Anyway, if I search for Neoinput Neobox, we get pretty much the Etsy listings, and that's fine. This is the DIY kit though. Let's see if I can get, yeah, here we go. Sold out right now, unfortunately. Let's see, conversion kit. Let's see if we can still look at it anyway. Alright. So, this is a store page, and there is a link to their Brook edition. Alright, and what else? So there's good descriptions in here. I just want to make sure we're not saying anything like, oh, it totally works with PS5, which I don't think these guys do. Alright. Now it does have plenty of pictures here, so you can see all their different caps. And I don't know if they carry all of these switches, but they definitely had the clicky ones I wanted. I got Jade and then Robin and the other. So that's cool. Just other product shots and stuff. You can see the bottom. So there's that. Oh, yeah, I'm not seeing anything terribly objectionable. All good. It's just details on getting the artwork template. Hopefully that'll be on the website once that launches. And hey, plug for the arcade stick. Nice. Anyway, let's make that a little bigger. Okay, it does give you honest info about the... Yep. So for PS4 mode, you do need the files. I don't think they ship with them. And that's kind of a dark arts thing. Oh, okay, so this is the switches. I guess they do carry all of them. That's pretty impressive to carry all those different types of switches. So yeah. Okay. So, okay, here we go. There is a bit on how to bypass the 8-minute timeout. I don't think you need to disassemble the entire controller. There is a way to just plug it in and get the files, but yeah, close enough. Alright then. Yeah, we cannot assist. Okay, good. So I don't see anything out of the ordinary, like, native PS5 compatibility. And there's an asterisk on it that says only for PS4 legacy games or something like that. Alright. Hopefully in the future we'll see the Neoinput site launch, and it will have documentation, how-to videos, etc. there. Let's do a quick Steam Deck check on the Neobox. Okay, so just to show you that yes, we can move around the OS screen, all that's working good. Alright, now I do recommend you set the Neobox into X input mode. That's probably going to afford you your most compatibility with everything on here. Okay, and that said, our Steam OS check works, so let's go ahead and launch into the game. While we're doing that, of course, let's get some dimensions. So I'm, again, trying to optimize this for a minimalist setup, in case you are in a situation you don't have a lot of space. And I'm looking about 9.5, 10 inches deep. And The width of the Neobox is slightly wider, so yeah, about 12.5 inches there. Now, I would use one of these, but with the recessed connector there, this won't fit. So you need some sort of mini extension. I'm not sure what the optimal thing would be. Now, if this can be offset, I mean, you could slide it under here and gain a little bit of space, but not a whole lot. I don't know. Anyway, as you can see, I'm moving around, and yes, everything works, so we're all good here. So the Neobox passes the Steam Deck check. Let's move on. Let's go into pros and cons about the Neobox. So first up, I want to concentrate on features and just quality. Now, feature-wise, it's a bit bare bones. I mean, what we're really doing here with Neoinput is we're putting an acrylic shell, bolting it together, and the acrylic sandwich formula, it works, right? It's a good survival strategy. It's tough, it's durable, it looks great. So, there you go. If you're looking for innovation, though, yeah, not a lot there. You've got GP2040, so you know it's going to work with Brook adapters. If you want to play this on PlayStation 5, you get that Wingman FGC or the Magic S Ultimate, and you use it as an inline converter. We don't have a pass-through port on this model. Obviously, the Core0 does, but yeah, so there is that strategy to work with it. That all said, having a southpaw option I feel is a great thing for accessibility. Now, obviously, I'm not running it because I am traditionally right-handed, but there just seems to be a real dearth of options for the left-handed player, and having Neoinput have that option for this is fantastic. So I really do applaud them. And of course, if GP2040 is not for you, they do have that Brook option. Of course, it does cost a little bit more. Let's move into build quality. And overall, again, it's that acrylic sandwich methodology, and it works, right? It's really sturdy, does not slide around a lot, and it feels really good. Now, those of you out there that are just, you hate 3D printed parts, yeah, the stock ones here are not going to do it for you. And now you do have the option to get resin plungers, keycaps, whatever you want to call it, but that adds an additional expense, right? So if you don't like 3D printed parts, you don't like the feel, or what have you, then yeah, this might not be for you. Let's talk about portability and form factor. Now, this takes a different approach a little bit, and just by adding a little bit of space, you add just so much to lap play, and it makes things just a bit more stable, right? Now, of course, that comes at the cost of fitting in some bags, whereas if you chopped off the sides here, you get about the size of a regular flat box, and you kind of lose a bit of lap play comfortability because just, you have to squeeze your legs a bit together, at least I do. Whereas with this, the whole point with Neoinput was, let's make something that is wide, that fits in your lap and plays nicely there, so you can just lean back, chill out, play your favorite fighting game, and there you go. You may be asking, okay, what's a good case for this? Well, I did some looking, and I found these cases, and they're about this wide, and it fits it fairly well. These are, I think it's the Logitech mini keys, and I'll hold it up just for reference for my head. And it fits in there fairly well. So this also applies to the Core0, and this was just off AliExpress, and it's fairly cheap. The next area I want to cover is customization. And the first thing is, can I put artwork on this? And yes, there is a layer of clear acrylic on top, so absolutely you can do that. You just need to find the template, do the editing. And if you're not an artist and you want some artist help, we have the arcade stick can help you with that. So just get in touch with us. We can take care of it. Anyway, I would like, though, to have the option to be able to download the templates from, say, Focus Attack. Then you can do your magic there, upload it back, have them print and cut it really professionally, and then you're set there. Because I don't cut it very well. I don't, unless I have access to a laser cutter and the certain files you need to do that with. It's not pretty. Anyway, So little snags like that aside, yes, you can do an artwork layer, which is nice. As far as other customization, there's a range of colors for these buttons and a range of Chalk V1 switches out there. Obviously, you don't have the customization in switches that you do with an MX, where there seems like there's another switch every 10 minutes that's been put on the market. You want to keep it low profile though, so you go with what you have, right? And I will say, remember that, and I'll probably get dinged for this, where, yeah, you can use V2s, just do this. Oh, okay. You got to go with one of the switches that are in the Chalk V1 line, so be careful there. Documentation wise, yeah, I know the website is still in development as I record this, so there is that. Hopefully, when that's done, we'll have some basic documentation out there. Yes, there are some tutorials and other stuff like the GP2040 info site, but it would be nice to have something that they've put together, a place where, hey, here's our Discord, here's our Twitter account, here's our blah blah blah, and here's our art templates, and such and so forth, right? Just one central resource that when I search for Neobox, it's in the top 5. Let's get started with an overview of the Core0. So looking down here, I didn't have really any accessories or anything exciting to come with it, but that's fine. All you need is a USB cable, and you're off to the races. 6 option buttons, the little nubby stubbies, kind of used to it, and 2 more over here. One I believe is turbo, one can be whatever you want it to be, function or macro, depends on how evil you are, I guess. There's some strips of LEDs here which are not currently supported but should be in the future, I believe. And you've got this nice industrial look with the chips they're not really exposed, but you can see them. Anyway, there's 3 little toggle switches here. We'll go into that. And a pass-through port. So if you have a Magic Boots adapter or Wingman FGC, you can play on PS5. You have a little frosted section there for this. It's going to be status lights. These button caps are 3D printed. I just got clear because there are LEDs. And I opted for loud, annoying, clicky switches because annoying my enemy is in person. It's obviously what I want to do, and also give away that I'm mashing again. Yes, you can get linear, so they're quieter. You can get tactiles if you'd like that. The whole range of Chalk V1s are available. Now, if you need the flexibility of MXs where you have 1,000,000,001 choices and one is coming out every 10 minutes, sorry, don't have that here, but, you live with it. Let's just tour around a little bit. So here, nothing, and here's where the magic is. So again, we kind of already seen it, but pass-through port. These switches are for controlling SOCD mode and what stick you're on, and also a focus, tournament lockout mode. So there's that, and also just your USB-C connection. So let's go to the back. Kind of like its brother, the Neobox. You have these big, nice rubber pads. We do have more bolts, and I believe this design is more used in the current Neobox. But otherwise, you just can see some of the back plate there, the PCB. So, I like that look. It's really, and they've got their look nicely frosted in there. All right. So that is the Core0 overview. Let's go ahead and move along. Let's get some dimensions on the Core0. So across, we are looking at just above 12 1/4, or about 312-ish millimeters. This way we're looking about 5.5 inch or 140 millimeters. And finally, width-wise, we're looking at just shy of about 1/2 inch, or I'd say, we're looking about 10-ish millimeters, maybe a little bit more if you're including the pad on the bottom here. So I think with the pad,
might just get that 1/2 inch, might just get to 15 millimeters or so. So yeah, pretty much have the same dimensions as the Neobox. Let's get a weight on the Core0. Yeah, it's pretty legit, almost 2 pounds, 1 pound, 11.3 ounces. So not bad, very portable, without feeling ephemeral, I guess would be the word. It has a good, solid build and weight to it, so I'm really liking it. Let's start working on the internals of the Core0. And I want to start with showing you how to change switches if you need to. So really you just need a flat tool, and you want to be careful when plying these off because these are using the Chalk V1, and I'm probably slaughtering that name. But I'm just using a small flathead here. Just kind of peel it up. Be careful because the tabs, I don't know how strong they are. I've heard reports of other 3D printed buttons breaking. So, and I'll show you that in not broken ones, but just what it looks like. Okay, so you can see, hopefully these little tabs slot into there. These are not MXs, they're a little bit different. From there, you'll just want a switch puller. So there's a not great one, but it's here. And if you don't have that, you might get away with the flathead, kind of work it out. You just want to wiggle it until it pops out. Now you note these switches are 5 pins, so you have the 2 side pins here, the center pin, and the 2 connection pins. If your Core0 arrives and you have issues, it's probably because one of the pins on the switches was bent, and you'll just want to straighten it out. You can use tweezers and then reinsert it. To install a switch, it's pretty easy. Just make sure you have the 2 metal tabs lined up top, or lined up with these little holes there. And of course, these plastic pins should all line up in a row. Get that lined up and just press straight down. You don't want those metal pins to bend. It's very easy to do it with these. Then to install the cap, just line up the center tabs with the switch, push down until you hear a nice solid click and it's not going anywhere. And there you go, you've reinstalled your button and switch. Now it's time to get into the Core0 proper. So there are 12 total screws here. I've removed all of them in the interest of time. But before you get into this, if you indeed want to do this, to insert art or just replace a board or whatever you're going to do, I recommend, since it is acrylic, it can get smudged very easily, have some, gloves, latex or not, like those will keep it from getting messed up from your, grubby little hands. And I also recommend have a little screw container like so. A tackle box works, a dish, a cup, whatever, just something to hold the screws, etc. that come out. Also, have some cleaning stuff. These lens wipes work pretty well, or you can just use lens cleaner spray, and a microfiber towel works really well as well. Okay, so we've the screws. Let's go ahead and use a Phillips PH0. I think a PH1 might work, but since I've got it, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Let's not be stubborn. Come on, there you go. And that's out. So again, this is an acrylic sandwich style board, so it's going to come off in layers, starting with this bottom layer. So you can tell they already kind of lasered their logo in there very nicely. Next, you have the PCB layer, or maybe an under layer of, I guess we'll find out. Oh, there we go. It's flying apart slowly. Okay, this is just a under layer for the PCB. So let's make sure we stack that appropriately. Okay. Next we have kind of a oh, these are interesting. We might need to fly this up somehow. So I'm just going to switch to a little flathead to kind of nudge this up if we can. I do not want to flex this too much because you never know. Oop. And I don't want to break that acrylic. That would be bad. Okay. I also recommend if we can punch these they're not really carriage bolts, but anyway, let's see if we can punch them out now that we've taken out a couple layers of acrylic. This is not normally something you should have to do. I mean, you can remove the switches. Obviously, I do this here to give you a complete look at the controllers we review. Once these are out, it should be much easier to disassemble. Okay, so we can ply that off. It's almost like a dual layer. Oh my gosh, did I snap that? I hope I didn't snap that. I might have snapped that. Might have to repair it a little bit. Okay, one for the bloopers reel. Anyway, here's our PCB. So, as you can see, we have all the RP2040 here, our screen. LEDs are here. We don't have those enabled yet because the latest version of the firmware, as of this recording, does not support them, but they should be in future revisions. All the switches, etc., we reviewed. On the back, we don't have anything necessarily dictating what pins these go to, so there's that. Otherwise, I mean, it's pretty much what we saw from up top, but you can see the layers of acrylic that go in here, and that is a little thin, but I think I can still repair it. Anyhow, so, and this layer has a little bit of, looks like just engraving sort of, so it kind of blurs out the player. And this layer here is between that and this one is probably where your artwork's going to go. So there's that. Anyway, let's go ahead and reassemble as best I can, and I'll see you back in the next segment. Let's go ahead and do some basic acceptance testing on the Core0. So what I want to do is, just like my other test, I usually just test for flexing to see if the infrastructure, I guess, is good. And yeah, I'm not getting, even over the screen, I don't get any distortion when I press down. I'm not like trying to grill it too hard, but as you can see, there's no bending at all. Let's do some slide testing. So I do expect, yeah, on the foam, I do expect a little bit of motion. It's actually not too bad. Like if I'm doing, like if I was playing games and kind of pushing it, I'm not getting really any motion, so that's good. Let's try it without just to see how it improves. And yeah, there's still some movement, about what I expect. If I try and push from here though, besides generating a lot of wobble in the desk and such, yeah, I'm not getting a lot of movement at all, so that's really good. The rubber pads on these really add a lot of surface contact and resilience to getting slid around, so that's really nice. Obviously, on a hitbox style controller, you are directing force more downward than any other direction, so this is kind of what I expect. All right, before we begin button testing, just again, I opted for clicky switches. If you don't like the noise, you can definitely get quieter linear switches. They're all available through Neo Input. All right, let's go ahead and do some directionals. We're again in last one mode, so. All right. That's all working. Just kind of like what I expect on GP2040, just everything works. All right, everything good there. Let's do a quick mash test. I do feel a little bit of bumping against my fingers on the buttons, but nothing horrible. I can mash pretty effectively with the kind of wiggle technique. All right, let's try some button chords. All right, looks good. I can't complain. Alrighty then, let's try turbo out real fast. That works fine. Start back. That's our touchpad button, I believe.
One of these is guide, but I don't have Steam ups, thankfully, so it's not trying to take over with big picture. All right, let's go ahead and try toggling that. So we're on left and then right. If I can't get a full circle, that's my fault. All right, let's change our SOCD mode. This is your CBT compliant neutral. And then finally upwinds. Yeah, just like I expected, that's gonna work. All right, and I'm loath to toggle this just because it's harder for me to change it back out, but that should turn off our options, and it does. All right. That is so hard to unstick. All right, I'm gonna use the old pen trick, and there we go. So that's it. It looks like everything works fine. We can move into games. All right, let's get a little Street Fighter 6, and as usual, like use E Honda just because, well, he has a mixture of motions and charges, and just like I expect on pretty much any GP2040 control, it's really crisp. There you go. So let's do a little. All right, simple enough. See, you can dash, you can do all that. I guess the only notable thing is just the 3D printed keycaps. If you're not used to that, you know, you're used to injection molded plastic, etc., then that might take a little adjusting, but it's not like they have a bad texture or anything. And if you really, really don't like it, there are resin keycaps that'll fit these V1 switches out there. I got a set from Barnes Industries, but I'm not sure they're making them anymore. All right, Rick, we can skip that. But yeah, during my time with the Core0, it's felt really good. You know, I can do what I want. There's the half circle. Let's do it again to show it's not a fluke. So as usual, my guide is if the execution error is on me, then I think the controller passes. Again, because this is wider, it fits the lap really nicely without being really obnoxiously large. So it makes it pretty portable, which is nice. So if you want to get a controller that's, you know, lap playable but still, you know, fairly portable, then this is definitely a good option for you. I want to do kind of a website review just to see, you know, if we have any missing things. Is there good documentation? Is there any misleading claims? I don't think Neobox guys are like that, but let's go ahead and first I want to see where it lands on the search. So it's within the 4th result here, which I'm okay with. I think optimally, you know, you're in the top 3, but my tolerance is in 1 through 5, so this is good. Okay, and we get some. I'm really just getting the Etsy page. Now their website is not completed yet. They're working on setting it up with Shopify, so that's cool. Hopefully we'll see that in the near future and have, you know, like a proper documentation, buying, customization, you know, troubleshooting steps, etc., etc. So they actually carry a lot of these selection of switches. It's mentioned below, I believe. Just and here's a listing of all the cap colors you can have. Again, I went with clear just because I wanted the RGBs to shine through. So let's go and learn more, see if we have anything that's not quite right. All right, it's true, it has RGBs, USB pass-through, and OLED display. We do, okay, great. Yep. That's true. Cable stream relief. Okay, that's good. All right. Yep. Polymaker PETG. Okay, great. Yeah, just a note that there's only a clear top. You can't get colored acrylic. Artwork template is here.
hopefully, again, when they have their own website, they can post that and just let you download it proper. Okay, so here's some instructions on how to print it. And yay, free plug for the arcade stick. Thanks, guys. Magic Boots adapter. I would like to see, if there could be an option to buy a Wingman, but I understand if they don't want to stock those and deal with that. All right, so just some information. Yeah, I don't see anything objectionable here. Maybe just a note that the side LEDs are not enabled as of 0.75 release of GP2040 CE, but that's a minor quibble. So I don't have any problems with the store page. Hopefully we'll have a proper web page going up within the near future, so that's good.
All right, it's time for the Steam Deck check with the Core0. Now I do recommend you set it to X input, but as you can see, it moves around, and PS4 mode generally works as well, but just to be sure, I'd say keep it to X input. All right, now again, I'm trying for a minimalist setup as far as depth, but let's see how much room you actually need. So if you have a travel situation, you need to save as much space as you can. Well, you need about maybe 9.5, 10 inches. Depends on how comfortable you are with your cable getting bent. And width-wise, you're about 12.5 inches. Yeah, a little short of 12.5. Now, normally I would use a right angle adapter to really optimize the space here, but this will not fit at all, unfortunately. So let's see what it looks like in game, if it still works there. And yep, as usual with GP2040, I have the utmost confidence it will work. And there we go. So definitely passing the Steam Deck test. So let's move on.
Now that lab time is done, let's go ahead and talk about what I liked and what I think we can improve upon in the Core0. And I'm going to go into specific subject areas because sometimes there's a balance of things in there. Let's start off with features and performance. So features and performance, I feel on the Core0 you actually are adding a lot over its brother, the Neobox. For starters, just this pass-through port is worth the price of admission just because the greater compatibility without introducing lag in inline converters. Now, it's not something I usually notice, but it is just maybe more convenient to plug in that Magic Boots here, and there you go. You don't have to worry about anything. Also, LEDs is definitely a nice touch. I like things that light up and do stupid stuff. If this thing shot off smoke, then I'd be like, yay! All right, that's cool. What else? I do like that you have the toggles here, but I found them, even with my small hands, they're just kind of hard to get to, so you almost need to carry a mini screwdriver or a tool or something to make sure you can access them. They're not usually something you go and toggle all the time, so, okay, with the only really possible exception of the tournament lockout, right? So I didn't feel like these were deal breakers for me. It's just kind of something to watch out for. Overall, I'm pleased with the performance of the Core0. The feature set, I feel, is pretty good. Once we get the lighting on the side to work, I feel like it'll just be a little notch, right? That we just elevate this to. Otherwise, compared to other GP2040 controllers, they have status screens, they have 6 option buttons, maybe more. I've never seen one with 8 though, so that's, to be fair. A lot of them don't have the toggle switches, but is that a major advantage? I don't know. More and more are getting the pass-through port, so it's really just, do you like how this looks, right? So there's that. Up next, let's talk about build quality. Now, overall, I've shown it already, but the flexion is just not happening. So again, acrylic sandwich, it fit together really well, plays really well in the lap, which is kind of the intent, right? So overall, yeah, it's pretty good. However, there are some nitpicks.
If I start taking this apart, the acrylic is kind of thin, and in places it's very fragile. So you have to be super careful if you plan to, say, insert artwork or whatnot. Yes, I did crack a couple places where it's a very thin piece, and that's my fault, but it's something to know, right? Another thing about the build is it's very small, but these tiny little buttons, one is going to be your boot cell, so if you need to flash nuke this, you'll need to know the key combination unless you plan on taking this apart. I don't want to have to take mine apart to get to the boot cell button. It'd be nice if that could be located on the back and a small hole, a pinhole place, so you can just reach it that way. This approach, yeah, I don't want to have to take out 11 bolts, disassemble all the acrylic just to hold that down, just to flash a different branch of the firmware or something. Yes, there is the hotkey, but if something goes wrong, the boot cell button is your only choice. Another thing about build quality is we've got 3D printed caps here, of course. The switches underneath Kale Chalk V1s, they're fine. I'm more partial to the V2s because there's a company called Lowfree that made some really nice palm ones. However, you don't have quite the variety that the V1 line has. So, it's a trade-off. Again, it's like, I'd say 30 to 40% of these style controllers use the V1s. Another 50 to 55% use the V2s, and everyone else that is not using one of those is using some wacky switch, so who knows. The V1s are fine. Some people like them, some people prefer them. It's just something to know about. Some people like me like the V2s. V1s, you have a lot more base options, like how much force does it take to activate, and so on. So there's that. Again, clicky switches here. That said, if you hate 3D printing, then these keycaps, you'll have to get them replaced, and the only option is resin. And that's another outlay of cash out on Etsy somewhere, right? So just be mindful of that. Hey, also from the future here, I want to say that the Core0 actually does support the V2 switch, so I've inserted one with a stovetop cap, and while it's not the best fit, it does work. So if you want that option, it's a little cheaper than going with the resin cap. Let's move into portability, and if you want to take this to an event, how much of a pain in your butt would it be, right? Well, I feel like it has enough weight without being obnoxious. So that's a nice feature. And yeah, it is wider than usual flat box kind of design, but of course, if you want that lap play, that's the sweet spot, is about this length, right? Obviously not very thick. It's not very even tall this direction, so that's nice. And I did find that a Logitech keys, I think it's mini keys, this little case here, just grabbed it off AliExpress for a few bucks, and this holds it reasonably well. Could use more top to bottom width, I think, but it does work. So let me just try and demonstrate that. What I kind of do is nudge it in here, and it folds over, and there you go. So it is reasonably portable, but you might need a special case for it. Let's cover customization next. So yes, you do have the opportunity to put artwork in here. However, you might end up covering some of these lights, so that kind of becomes a personal decision. You have a range of V1 switches that you can install on here or have pre-installed by Neo Input, so that's great. And you have a variety of keycap colors, though if you're going to take advantage of the lights, I just went with clear. I don't think they have a smoke quite yet. They're still looking at that. Maybe in the future, if you want something a little bit darker, lower profile, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. That will become available. Otherwise, you can use GP2040 to set your colors. As far as lights, you've seen that already, so that's nice. And the difference between here and the Neobox is
This black acrylic is currently the only option that I know of as I record this. So maybe there's more options. However, right now, no. Unlike the Neobox where you can get different colors of acrylic there, can't do it here. Last area I want to cover is documentation, and right now, at least as I recorded this, the website isn't really done yet, so I can't comment too much. I mean, you have the Etsy page, but I want a place where I can download art templates. I know where to go as far as socials, Discord, etc., where I can find about what caps are available, what's inside, this, that, and the other. So I can't really comment too much on the documentation. What are my final thoughts on the Neobox and the Core0? Well, I feel like these are really well built despite my best attempts to destroy them through my klutziness. Hitboxes that, we have some flash over here. This is just solidly built. It's a workhorse. It'll get the job done and goes home at the end of the day. Does, whatever it does. Sure, if you don't like 3D printed anything, then you'll get the keycaps replaced on here if you want to go through that step one way or another, whether it's resin or otherwise. And yeah, you've got a really great setup here. It feels so solid, so sturdy. You can get these customized a fair degree. Like if I didn't want this white, there's a number of background colors I can use. Sure, you can't do that on the Core0, but you can customize the colors and you're off to the races. You can also do an artwork layer in there or an artwork layer in here, whichever works for you. And again, if you're looking for that, contact our artist at the Arcade Stick and we can help you out. But if I have to choose between one or the other, you know me, I like little features, gizmos, and things like that. Stupid features, it doesn't matter. The light up, the status screen, the toggle switches, the pass-through is an actual practical feature. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Core0. Probably throw in some artwork or laser cut paper or something like that and make it pretty. I already have the keycaps. I just need to put them on, and maybe I'll show a little Instagram thing later where I have those fully decked out and customized. But otherwise, I've really enjoyed my time with both these controllers. They do have more options available if you're looking at these and like, I kind of like it, but what if I had, this, that, and the other. So take a look at Neo Input's Etsy page, and hopefully their webpage will be up soon. And until then, happy gaming. Hey everyone, you know what time it is. I've got a kitty, and you've just watched the video, so I'd really appreciate it if you follow the YouTube refrain, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. If you found this material interesting, it was informative, helped you make a buying decision, he'd really like it if you left a like. You can tell. Look at how much he loves it. If you have questions or just want to see something you thought it was in the video, didn't make sense or whatever, leave a comment, tag me, and I'll try and answer within 2 to 3 days. And finally, if you want to see more content from the Arcade Stick, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button. You know the drill. Come on, you've been on YouTube. I doubt any of you this is your first time. Anyway, Rocky says, do it or else.
The Arcade Stick.